Continuing our coverage of the crisis in Ukraine, as you heard, nearly 3 million people have fled as Russia's invasion threatens Kyiv. Joining us now here on 5 on 2 to break down the latest developments is Dr. Liam Anderson, a professor of political science at Wright State University. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, the White House confirmed President Biden will travel to Brussels March 24th for a NATO summit on Russia's war with Ukraine. At the same time, Russian attacks move closer to Poland, and recently the Biden administration rejected Poland's proposal that involved the U.S. transferring Soviet-era fighter jets to Ukraine. So what do you believe will come out of this meeting? Will the Biden administration move forward in providing more for Poland as Russians get closer?
I don't see any possibility of a change in the fundamental basic policy of NATO to this point, which has been to draw a very clear line on NATO's involvement. We are not going to do anything that risks getting into a shooting war with Russia. So kind of Ukraine's on its own in terms of its own defense. So we're not going to get involved in any sort of direct way. I would imagine what's going to happen is NATO will beef up troop presence in the frontline states, in Poland, the Baltic states, this sort of stuff. The Polish proposal, I'd give it full marks for irony because it would have involved transporting old Russian planes to Ukraine to allow the Ukrainians to fight Russia with its own planes. But of course, you have to get the planes there somehow, which would have involved flying over Russian-controlled Ukrainian airspace. And that basically is a confrontation waiting to happen. And it's this stage we're not prepared to impose a no-fly zone. We're not prepared to take that sort of risk that might suck us into a military conflict with Russia.
Yeah, and two members we learned today of the Fox News team were killed when their vehicle was hit by incoming fire. I talked about the millions of people who have already fled. However this war ends, what does the future look like for this country after so much destruction? Do these Ukrainians come back, and to what?
Yeah, I mean, I think the real problem right now is that Vladimir Putin is clearly all in on this. He can't stop until he can turn around and claim at least some sort of victory. But at the same time, it looks like President Zelensky of Ukraine is all in as well, and they're going to fight till the end. And so it's not easy to see how this thing ends anytime soon. This is going to be months and months. And then, of course, even if Russia succeeds in taking the capital and installing a puppet, you're going to get an insurgency from Ukrainian nationalists. They're going to be fighting an insurgency against occupying Russia. I think at this stage, it doesn't look good for Ukraine. I hate to say it. It doesn't seem to me a way out other than a negotiated solution, but neither side seems to be interested in that right now.
Yeah, situation certainly changing by the day, and one that we're keeping a close eye on. So we appreciate you joining us to break this down here. Dr. Liam Anderson, professor of political science at Wright State University. Thank you for joining us.